All right, hello everyone. I'm going to give you the quickest video just to discuss an annotated bibliography in case you've never written one before, or in case you're looking for the specs of what I'll be looking for in your annotated bibliographies. So the annotated bibliography is part of the Lifeform paper. It's going to take care of your two long sources that are required for the paper. Essentially what an annotation is, at least in this case, is a summary. You can just think of it as a summary without your opinion intruding in any way. And we'll talk more about that when we look at the example, and I have an example posted online. So you only have to summarize two sources. They will be your lengthy sources. So you can see these two sources right here are taken care of in the assignment. Eventually, these two sources, you'll be reading them and summarizing them for your daily post. And eventually they will become a more major assignment for the course. If we just scroll down to the end of the Lifeform assignment description, you'll see that this is listed as well. You can see it's not a major component of the course, just 5% of the grade, but an easy way to pick up points. I just want you to write a rough draft essentially of these annotations, these summaries of two sources, and then you can polish them up a bit later and you'll be turning them in as part of your Lifeform paper and your reflection paper. So what is an annotation? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Before we look at the example, maybe I'll just mention this quickly and walk you through here. What should these sources be? These should be probably the best, longest, densest, most in-depth sources that you have. They might just be a long magazine article, something by National Geographic on your topic related to your Lifeform in some ways. They could be academic sources, and that could be a peer-reviewed article that you found through something like Academic Search Premier or the WSU Library's search engines, or it could be a book from the WSU Library or something similar as well on your topic. You don't have to summarize the whole book. You might just summarize the pertinent ideas that you use in your paper. If there's a difference between your annotation, your summary of a source, and maybe the source that you would find on the back of a book jacket or the abstract for an academic article. If there's a difference, it's that your annotation, your summary, will probably be guided by your goals, your uses of the information. So you wouldn't want to just copy off the back jacket of a book, say, because that would be too broad and wouldn't capture what your goals are. So you're summarizing the information that's important to you, even though you're doing it in a fairly objective, neutral way, where you don't actually talk about if you like it or not, or what you might do with the information later. It goes without saying you wouldn't want to copy from the back of a book jacket or an abstract also, because that would be plagiarism. So please do not do that. That would be cheating, right? But in general, what I'd like you to see here is that summary annotation, in this case, is guided by your goals and your uses. You know, you're reading this with your own project in mind, your own learning in mind, the way that you might repurpose the information from a book or given long article for your Lifeform paper. And so that'll be fine when you do this. There'll be, as I say here, it should be about 10 minutes to read, should be several thousand words, might be longer, might take you 40 minutes to read, might be a decently long source. If you choose to just read a book chapter or two and not a whole book, that's perfectly acceptable. Just let us know that it's a book and that you're maybe going to focus in on a couple of chapters and then summarize those major ideas, and that would be just fine. Most people have written this before and it isn't anything new, but I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So now let's take a look at an example. Here's an example that I've posted. As I say in the introduction on D2L to this attachment that you can open, there's a couple reasons that you might write an annotated bibliography, even in the future after college. One reason is for large research projects. You can't remember what every source says. So you need some way of capturing the major points of each article, so that if you're looking back and saying, oh, that source, what did it say again? Or which source had that idea that we'll use to support here that we're challenging in some way? You need to have at least a decent summary of sources. So that is one important idea. This is really true when you're working with others, and a lot of research shows, and it goes without saying, that after college, a lot of the writing you do, a lot of the research you do, problems that you'll solve will be in groups. And so not everybody's reading the same thing. You might be an expert in one area and have 3, 4, 5 sources that you've read. Well, you can't necessarily expect everybody else in your working group to read those sources. So you might just jot down a quick paragraph of the major ideas, major concerns as related to the problem you're trying to solve. And if everybody in your working group did that, you'd have, a short list of 15, 20 sources. You've only read a few of them, but you would have the gist of what the others say and would be able to ask intelligent questions in meetings in a group setting and some stuff like that. So this is why the pure summary is an important skill and why we practice the annotated bibliography here. The other reason is educational. That is, by having you write about this, you're reading it deeply, you're really thinking about how you're going to read this information, and it's jump-starting your knowledge. That's the reason I have you write about and summarize 2 long articles, because you're really giving yourself a good grounding. Sometimes we think that mentally we have everything we need and it's all captured in our long-term memory, but it's not as much. So one way to really get into this project is to start to read things knowing that you're going to have to summarize and write the major ideas. And you commit them to memory a bit more. You catch up on the knowledge of the field, the things that people have said, the various viewpoints that people have on your topic, on your issue. So that you're part of the conversation. Everybody that came before you, all those opinions appear in different places inside of these long, more academic readings. So you're not just getting one viewpoint, but hopefully many as you go in these more academic writings. So that is a second educational or psychological reason to go ahead and write an annotated bibliography. So this one might be a bit longer than yours, but just a bit. Yours, I think I have you down for about 150, maybe 200 words max. This is probably a bit longer than that. But here is the strategy I'd like you to shoot for. First sentence probably just lists basically the thesis of whatever it is you're reading. What is the major point? Or if it has a number of major points, the one that's probably most pertinent to your project, the thing that you'll focus on. And that's what you want to do right away. Notice there's no commentary on, there's none of the writers, that is the student writer's opinion appearing in here. You'll notice finally it does appear at the end here, and I want you to save your own opinion on the article, whether you like it or not, what you find problematic about it, what you might use. All of these things are reserved for the end. You have pure summary right here, and that is the bulk of what you'll be writing for your annotation. Okay, so open up with the argument or what it addresses, the very specific topic. And from there, then, you're going to jot down, sort of in a list-like format, the major ideas. And what I did here is in green, I just coded out basically the major ideas. And so this is a list. We could turn this into a list very easily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ideas, basically, from the article. And then a decent amount of explanation of those, so that, again, if somebody else was reading this, they'd kind of feel like they read the article. And that's what I look for when I grade these. I ask myself, do I feel like I've read this article and I can remember the basic points when I'm done? Another way to think of this is if your information is so generic that many articles would provide that information, that's probably not a great summary, because that means you've missed maybe the linkages between the points and you've missed the argument, the opinion that the article itself or the book chapter itself, the source itself, captures. So if the information is so generic that all of your sources, even though you've only got 2 for this, sound the same, that's probably not a great summary. So you want to grab what is unique about the argument or what is unique about the discussion. Maybe here we're talking about unintended effects. What are the unique unintended effects that this article captures that maybe other ones wouldn't, or only some would, or something like that. So if you think of this as capturing the thesis, it's going broad, and then breaking it down to a list of the major ideas that you've chosen as important, you'll get a really nice summary of the article. And again, if at the end you think, hey, a stranger could read this and more or less feel like they read this and they've got the major points, and that you've captured the uniqueness of the source and its unique contributions that distinguish it from other sources, that sounds like a pretty fantastic summary to me. You can even use what's known as meta language, or just signposting, to say this article or this source contributes something new to the conversation. The authors claim that their new contribution is blank. So you can actually use language to point out what the authors of the source itself think they are doing that is new, the ideas that they're challenging, the ideas that they're elaborating on or building on, perhaps in a way that no one has before. And that's typically what academic sources do, is they're trying to do something new, provide new information, construct new knowledge. And so you can go ahead and capture that too. What do the articles, what do the authors think they're doing that's new? If you don't do that, that's okay, but at least have the list-like format so that you can capture the basic ideas and maybe discuss how they are linked in a cause-effect relationship, a problem-solution relationship, compare-contrast relationship, something like this. Right? If you talked about the different types of publics or demographics or life forms that are affected, that would be very, very good too. Those are easy areas to go to when looking to frame this and construct knowledge and give a good summary. But notice it's just the summary, and I'll be looking for that. I don't want any opinion intruding up in the summary. All your opinion should be saved for a very, very short paragraph at the end. Notice the ratio, almost all summary with just a bit of opinion at the end. All right, so that should do it. You've got this example online. You've got this video to help. You can look online for other examples as well. Last thing I might just mention, look at the formatting. The source comes first. Later, you can just copy and paste this into your Works Cited or bibliography page. You don't need to include all of this in your Works Cited or bibliography page, just the source, okay? You'll be turning this in separately. It'll look a lot like this one. This one has several sources on it. You'll just be turning in 2, and then you would be done. And that'll be your 5% annotated bibliography. So this one is in, I'll just say this, you can use APA or you can use MLA style, but just be consistent in your paper and in your annotated bibliography. All right, so that should do it. Go ahead and find 2 good sources and go ahead and annotate, summarize them, and then you will have a rough draft of this component done. And you can revisit it later, and you'll be turning it in as a Word doc along with your Lifeform paper and your Lifeforms reflection paper. All right, thank you much, folks. We will talk soon.